What if the games you have in your home are more than just entertainment? Some of them might be spiritual doorways to harmful influences, packaged as harmless fun. In this video, we'll uncover 5 popular games that Christians should think twice about, explaining why they are not as innocent as they seem. Be sure to stay tuned to the end because you definitely won't want to miss any of these items that could be in your home. Now let's begin. Number 1. Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, is a tabletop role-playing game that immerses players in fantasy worlds filled with magic, mystical creatures, and supernatural forces. While celebrated for encouraging creativity and teamwork, the game presents significant spiritual dangers for Christians due to its themes and mechanics. Players create characters such as wizards, sorcerers, and clerics, who often use spells, summon entities, or engage in battles with magical creatures. These game elements draw heavily from occult practices, such as necromancy and divination, which are explicitly condemned in Scripture, Deuteronomy 18:10-12. This reliance on magic as a core game mechanic introduces players to a worldview where supernatural power is normalized and often seen as neutral. Dungeons and Dragons goes beyond simple gameplay by immersing participants in a deeply interactive and often emotionally engaging experience. Players don't merely observe a story, they actively shape it, often making decisions that reflect their character's moral and spiritual beliefs. This level of involvement can lead to a subtle but significant shift in perspective. For instance, a player portraying a wizard may spend hours strategizing over spells and magical rituals, normalizing practices like summoning entities or manipulating supernatural forces, activities that align disturbingly with real-world occult practices. Furthermore, the inclusion of fictional deities and pantheons often requires players to engage in role-playing acts of devotion, prayer, or sacrifice to these gods for power or success. These actions can desensitize individuals to the spiritual implications of idolatry and obscure the importance of worshiping the one true God. Exodus 23. Such immersive role-play blurs the lines between imagination and real spiritual danger, making D&D more than just a harmless fantasy game for many Christians. Number 2. Magic 8-Ball. The Magic 8-Ball, invented in the 1950s, is a popular novelty item marketed as a fun way to get answers to simple questions. Users shake the ball, ask a question, and wait as a random response like yes, no, or ask again later appears in its display. However, its origins reveal a deeper spiritual concern. The Magic 8-Ball was inspired by a precursor called the Psycho Slate, invented by Albert Carter, who drew on a spirit-writing device his mother owned, a tool historically linked to spiritualism and seances. This connection highlights the spiritual dangers of the Magic 8-Ball. At its core, the concept mimics divination, the practice of seeking guidance or predictions from supernatural forces or external objects. Such practices divert people from seeking God's wisdom and direction. Even when treated as a game, using the Magic 8-Ball reinforces reliance on non-divine sources for decision-making. Moreover, the Magic 8-Ball normalizes superstition, introducing the idea that unseen forces can provide guidance. This desensitization can lead individuals to accept more overt forms of divination, such as tarot cards, pendulums, or fortune-telling. Over time, the spiritual danger deepens, as Satan often cloaks harmful practices in seemingly innocent forms to mislead people. Before we continue, if you are finding this information valuable, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Number 3. Pokemon. Short for Pocket Monsters, Pokemon is a global phenomenon encompassing video games, trading cards, TV shows, and movies. While it appears to be innocent entertainment, the franchise contains spiritual elements that raise concerns for Christians. Many Pokemon characters are inspired by Japanese Shinto and animistic beliefs, introducing players to ideas that conflict with the biblical worldview. Characters like Drowsy, modeled after the dream-eating mythical Baku, and Ninetales, inspired by the Kitsune, a magical fox known for its deceptive powers, are rooted in folklore associated with spirits and supernatural abilities. Pokemon like Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar embody ghostly entities, while players interact with channelers, fictional spirit mediums to advance in the games. These themes blur the lines between fantasy and occult practices explicitly condemned in Scripture. Beyond individual characters, the overarching premise of capturing and controlling creatures with psychic powers and spells reflects practices like divination and spirit summoning. Pokemon such as Tornadus and Thundurus, inspired by Shinto gods of wind and thunder, reinforce the game's spiritual undertones. Similarly, Dusclops, a ghost Pokemon, reflects animistic beliefs in objects inhabited by spirits. While it may seem harmless, this exposure desensitizes individuals to occult-like practices. Additionally, the game promotes obsession through its slogan, "Gotta catch 'em all." This constant pursuit of collecting and battling can foster materialism and distraction from God's call to live a Christ-centered life. Christians are reminded in Philippians 4:8 to focus on what is true, noble, and pure, avoiding anything that conflicts with faith. Pokemon may seem like harmless fun, but its spiritual roots and themes make it a game worth reconsidering. Number 4. Tarot cards. Though now often associated with divination and spiritual guidance, tarot cards were originally created as a card game in 15th century Europe. Over time, however, their use shifted, and they became tools for interpreting symbolic imagery to predict future events or uncover hidden truths. While tarot cards are increasingly popular as tools for self-reflection or entertainment, their modern use is rooted in occult practices that the Bible strictly warns against. The practice of using tarot cards for divination involves seeking insight from mystical forces, rather than relying on God's wisdom and guidance. This act directly conflicts with the Christian call to trust in God's sovereignty. Even when used casually, tarot cards desensitize individuals to deeper occult practices, opening doors to spiritual deception and harm. The enemy often disguises spiritually dangerous tools as harmless entertainment, leading people away from faith, 2 Corinthians 11:14. Additionally, tarot cards often create a false sense of authority over one's future. This illusion of control can lead individuals to place more trust in the cards than in God's plan, fostering pride and self-reliance. Furthermore, the symbols and rituals associated with tarot cards often carry spiritual significance in occult practices, making their use spiritually dangerous, even if the intent seems harmless. The Bible repeatedly warns against practices that attempt to access secret knowledge apart from God's revelation. Allowing tarot cards into the home not only normalizes divination but also risks inviting spiritual influences that are not from God, putting individuals at risk of falling deeper into deception. And finally, number 5, the Ouija board. Often marketed as a party game, the Ouija board is one of the most overtly dangerous items on this list. It involves players asking questions while a planchette spells out answers, guided by unseen spirits. Despite its reputation as a toy, the Ouija board is a tool for spirit communication, something the Bible explicitly warns against, Leviticus 19:31. Its design and intent are rooted in practices condemned by God, as they seek knowledge from spiritual entities rather than from Him. Using a Ouija board opens the door to spiritual influences that are not from God, inviting deception, confusion, and demonic activity. Many testimonies highlight unsettling experiences, including objects moving inexplicably, terrifying dreams, and unexplained physical phenomena, such as hearing voices or experiencing sudden chills. Some users have reported persistent feelings of being watched or haunted long after using the board, with some even experiencing shadowy figures appearing in their homes. Others describe intense fear and anxiety, as though they had opened a door they could not close. These accounts often lead to long-term spiritual oppression, requiring prayer and deliverance to find peace. One particularly alarming story involves a group of friends who reported receiving specific, chilling messages from the board, only to later experience accidents and misfortunes that seemed connected to the warnings they received. Another individual shared that after using a Ouija board in their teenage years, they felt plagued by nightmares and unexplained occurrences in their home, such as lights flickering and doors slamming shut without cause. The Ouija board is particularly dangerous because of its deceptive nature. It appears as harmless fun, yet it actively encourages engagement with the spiritual realm in ways that conflict with Christian teachings. Satan often uses such tools to disguise harmful practices, luring people into situations that open spiritual doors to harm. For believers, this is a clear reminder to be vigilant about what they allow into their homes and lives. Instead of turning to tools like the Ouija board, Christians should rely on prayer and scripture to seek wisdom and guidance. God promises to provide the clarity and direction we need when we turn to Him. James 1:5. Removing items like the Ouija board from the home is a critical step in protecting one's spiritual health and honoring God's commandments. By relying on Him, we can avoid the traps of deception and walk securely in faith. These real-life experiences underscore the spiritual dangers of the Ouija board, making it a practice to avoid at all costs. As Christians, we must carefully evaluate the games and items we allow into our homes. What may seem like harmless fun can introduce spiritual dangers that conflict with our faith. Which of these games surprised you the most? Have you ever had to remove something spiritually harmful from your home? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help others stay spiritually vigilant.